Hello, everybody. Welcome to this webinar about AML and roaming. I see many people are joining. We're already 67 attendees who have joined, so maybe we can leave a few seconds, a few minutes for more people to join, as I see that this number is constantly increasing. So I guess we can start in a few minutes. Okay, see, we are now 80, more than 80 participants. So welcome to the ones who just arrived. I'm very happy to see all of you in this webinar. And I guess that shows also interest in the solution that is going to be presented, and that shows also that how much AML and roaming is an issue at the moment. I see people joining from all the continents also and from many different countries. So it's good to see that we're heard from all of these countries, actually. So I'm joined here by Eddy who works for Orange Belgium, and Jan Zijnstra, who works for Astrid, who's the provider of communication system for Belgian emergency services. So welcome to both of you. And both Eddy and Jan will be presenting on the solution that they have been piloting and which is now live, that enables AML messages being sent for roaming users directly to the Belgian emergency services, and this through an SMS to a short number, and that is a solution that is free for the user. So it is compliant also with European legislation and let's say basic requirements. So while the number of people shows that it is a big issue now, more and more countries have deployed AML. I think we are now 27 in Europe, in the world, and for those countries, activating it for roamers is still an issue. And I know I see some familiar names in the list of participants, and I know that many of you present here are struggling with that. So I really hope that you can learn a lot from what Eddy and Jan will present. And so just to remind you that the call is going to be recorded and that the presentation will be sent to you afterwards. It will also be available on the EENA website. So you'll be free also to share it with your colleagues. And there is a possibility to ask questions. To do so, there's a possibility to raise your hand or to write the question. There's on the tool that we're using, there's a possibility to write some questions, and then I will read them to the speakers. So I guess we can start now already with Eddy, who will present the more technical aspects of the solution, how it works, and how to make it happen in your country. And then Jan will present about how the pilot was organized in Belgium and some recommendations also for those of you who will be testing this functionality, and you will give us more a view from the field, let's say. So let's start now with Eddy from Orange.
Okay. We have to share the presentation. Sorry.
Yeah, we can see your screen, Eddy.
You can see it?
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Then I propose to you to present the technical solutions that you have put in place in Belgium regarding AML solutions, be able also to offer this very interesting added value for roamers in Belgium also. Then we will start with a short description of the solution put in place for the local users. What are the requirements to apply this kind of solutions for roamers in Belgium? A short description of the deployments and a conclusion of these presentations. Then first of all, we have the situation in Belgium for local customers. They place an emergency call. The call is routed to the PSAP. Then the device collects information regarding the GPS information for the location of the customers. This information is forwarded via SMS to the PSAP services, and the PSAP can collect the location of the customers. We still to continue to use cell information provided by the mobile networks, but also we are able to use the GPS informations. Then the key questions is know the requirements for roamers coming in Belgium to also be able to benefit of this service, to have the GPS location in case of emergency calls. And a key element also coming from the European regulation is the fact that it must be free of charge for the customers. If we we have a focus on the solution proposed in the ETSI documentation regarding the AML in case of roaming, we have two options. Two options linked to the technical the technical issue related to the SMS is the fact that the SMS is always routed to the home networks and managed by the SMSC of the home networks. Then in any case, when I am roaming abroad, the SMS is routed back to my home networks and managed by the SMSC of my home networks. Then in case of AML in roaming situations, my SMS is always coming back to the home SMSC. Then we have two options to send back this SMS to the visited PSAP. The first solution proposed is the fact that the SMS is forwarded via SMS connections to the visited networks to be routed by the end on the PSAP is the option 1 in green on the screen. And the second solution also proposed in the ETSI documents is that the home SMSC forwards the AML SMS to the home PSAP, and the home PSAP send back the location information to the visited PSAP, option 2. These two solutions have major disadvantage and major negative possibilities. Then for the first solution, option 1, the rerouting of the SMS, it's need that we use long numbers to be able to reroute the SMS, because short number are in the majority of case blocked, because normally related to A2P SMS, then majority of operator block it. The only solution is to use long numbers. And the second key issue is the interworking between operators, interworking related to the SMS transfers, and we cannot guarantee that in all the case the SMS will be correctly sent back to the visited networks and by the end arrive to the PSAP. The second solution is also very complex, because we need to put in place interconnections between PSAP, and it's really difficult to do that and to interconnect all PSAP together. Then for us, the solution proposed, option 1, option 2, are not good solution, are not the perfect solutions. What we propose, it's to change the way of the SMS is managed. Reminder that normally when roamers send an SMS is routed to the home networks and managed by the home networks. Then the idea is to say, no, when I have to manage an SMS related to AML, I will not use the normal way to manage the SMS, and I will force this SMS to use an SMS in the visited networks, a specific one, a new one. It's not a new physical SMSC, it's a logical new SMSC with a specific address that will be used to manage AML SMS. And in collaboration with operating system in the device makers, we request them to use this new specific SMSC. Then this SMSC have a specific address. We built this address with the country code of the visited networks and the emergency numbers. It's the identity of this new SMSC. Why we use this specific address format with the country codes? We have to take into account the fact that operators apply SMS bearing. Then they try to control the SMS when the customers is roaming abroad, to be sure that the customers use the home SMSC. But this barring is applicable to outgoing international numbers except the visited countries. Then if we use the country code of the visited country, also is the SMS barring is applied, the barring is not blocking this SMS using the country code of the visited networks. Then we are able on the core networks to route this SMS on the new SMSC, also in the visited networks. On the SMSC, we apply in the majority of case control of the access to be sure that the SMSC is only used by authorized people. Then in our case, we have a new access control for this case of AML SMS used by roamers. We have just to control that the sender is located on the visited networks, in your case on Orange networks, and that the customers is sending an SMS to the PSAP in the context of the AML, and in your case, that the destination of this SMS is 8112. Then with these architectures, the SMS is now fully managed in the visited networks, no more routing to the home networks, and the SMS is directly forwarded to the PSAP. Okay. If we have a quick look on the call flows that it's applied, we have the operating system on the device. We define the emergency numbers and we define also the destinations. It's the situation before the new configuration of the AML for roamers, then the situations that we apply in a normal way for Orange customers. If we change the situation to be able to apply this call flow to roamers in, we change the information regarding the SMSC to use in case of AML to be able to use the new SMSC. Of course, on the networks, the routing has been put in place to route this SMS to the new SMSC. And as mentioned previously, we control that the user of this SMSC is really located on Orange networks and that the destination of the SMS is really the PSAP. In other case, the SMS is blocked. Then this SMSC is fully dedicated to the AML message. Important to notice that this solution is applicable to roamers in Orange networks, but also to Orange networks. It's working also for home users and for roamers ins. The two solutions could coexist. No issue to deploy the second solution. We can continue to use the two in the same time. It's really important. Regarding the requirements linked to the billing of this SMS, this SMS is fully managed by the visited networks. Of course, we have on the visited MSC a ticket with the information related to the SMS sent by the user to the PSAP. But this ticket will be billed to 0 and forwarded via the TAP, the transfer or billing information to the home network of the customers, but the billing is set to 0. No issue related to the billing. It's free of charge for the customers. Nevertheless, for regulatory needs, we have the information that the SMS has been sent by the roamers, but no billing. This solution is applicable just for information on old technology, 2G, 3G, 4G, and tomorrow also on 5G. The SMS could be also managed and the solution still applicable for technology of 5G technology. Then we perform some tests. They confirm that the solution is working, and we decide in collaboration with Astrid to put in place the solution for the 3 operators in Belgium. Then for the 3 operators, the major operation is to define the new logical SMSC and apply the routing and the control of the SMS access. Very simple, not really complex to manage. Work with Android to update the operating system with the new SMSC address, and we can start to offer the service to roamers in Belgium. Then today, when a roamer is coming in Belgium on base Proximus on Orange networks, in case of emergency call, we can use the AML solution, collects GPS information on the location of the customers, send the SMS to the PSAP, and by the end have the location of the customers calling the emergency services. Then to have a conclusion on this solution, it's really simple to put in place for mobile operators. No major investment is needed. As already mentioned, we have just defined a new logical SMSC with a new address and put in place the routing inside the networks. The solution is fully managed by the visited networks, then it's very efficient. We are fully independent of the home networks. The solution have a very limited impact also on the operating system related to AML in the device. The solution is easily replicable, and as already mentioned, the solution is applicable whatever the technology we use in 2G, 3G, 4G, and also tomorrow in 5G. SMS still working on 5G, and we can continue to use this kind of solutions in the future of the networks. This is the solutions, the very simple solution that we put in place in Belgium to offer AML service also to roamers in Orange, Base, and Proximus networks. I don't know if you have questions.
Yes, this is Benoit speaking. Thank you for your presentation, Eddy. I see that a few questions have been asked. So one question is from Neil Stamps. So could the solution be extended to also work for SMS to 112 so that the SMS is correctly routed to the local PSAP, not the home PSAP?
It could be, but it must be studied. It's not so simple. If we speak about a specific SMS sent to the PSAP, the sending of the SMS to the PSAP could work exactly on the same solutions. Nevertheless, we have to work on the response from the PSAP to the user. It's not so simple to have a both-way communication using SMS between the roamers in and the PSAP. Then we need to work on it. We cannot say today it's working. We have to work on it. And we are working on it.
Yeah, thank you, Eddy. Then we have a question from Peter Sanders. Why is the SMSC number shown to the user in a menu? AML was supposed to be invisible to the user.
Yes. Yes, for sure. It's fully not visible to the user. What I show in the screen, it is because we have a specific application on the device to have the visibility on it, but this information is totally invisible to the customers. All this information is updated in the device. In fact, when the customers, the roamers is coming in a country, they check the operating system of the device, checks the location of the user. They see that the customers is located in Belgium because they have received a lot of information coming from networks with the MCC mobile country code where the customers is located. Then based on this information, the device will use the correct AML information for the country where the customers is located. And then they have this kind of configuration. Once again, not visible to the customers, but inside the device. And in case of call to the emergency center, they will use the parameters that we have defined and agree with the operating system provider. If I change in another country, I have other information.
Okay, thank you, Eddy. I see that there are still many questions that are being asked, and you can continue to do so. In the meanwhile, I think we can first maybe get the presentation from Jan from Astrid, because he will answer some of your questions as well in his presentation. So I will maybe first now give the floor to Jan, and then Eddy, we can continue the discussion with you later. So Jan, I will now set you as a presenter.
Yep. I'll just put on my presentation first. Do you see my presentation?
Yes, I can see your presentation.
Great, thank you. Do you still hear me, or yeah?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, I did the menu and then the sound stopped, so I was a little bit worried. Okay, so AML for roaming. Let's put a focus on my presentation. Perhaps first a small introduction of Astrid. In Belgium, there is a government agency called Astrid who organizes all the technical infrastructure for the Belgium emergency centers. So we basically do that for all emergency centers in Belgium. We provide most of the technical services, one of which is the AML service. Before AML, we already operated an SMS platform for the hearing impaired community to be able to respond to emergency SMS messages. And we also had an app platform for our emergency app that we also operate for also the normal persons, but also we offer real-time text chatting through that platform. So basically we combined those two platforms to create an AML service. So we supported AML for national users. We also supported AML for emergency text messaging. And we did also have an AML long number, but we never put it in use due to the billing issues that we have, that it wasn't free of charge for the end users. So what does our technical setup look like? Basically, on the top of the screen, you see the AML capable phone, which makes the normal phone call. And the AML message passes as an SMS to the SMSCs of the local providers. You see a couple of more providers than we have for the AML for roaming situation. That's because we also have connections to the full MVNOs who operate their own SMSC. So we have about 6 or 7 connections now. We basically connected to every MNO and every full MVNO. And basically the SMS messages come into our network via a secured tunnel to our SMS gateway. That SMS gateway transforms or forwards the message to our application server, and the application server makes sure that every PSAP has access when taking the phone call, that the AML information is available. So the AML for roaming was very happy when Eddy first contacted me, stating that they might have a solution for AML for roaming, and they had a test setup over here in Belgium. So we immediately started cooperating with Orange to make sure that it starts working. The new concept, as Eddy explained, worked with a sort of alias on the existing SMSCs of the providers. That's perhaps a little bit simplified view. So the advantage for us was that we didn't have to make any new SMSC connections to the providers, because it ends up at the same SMSC as the usual messages. So using the alias doesn't change anything on the PSAP side. We didn't have to make any new SMSC connections for receiving those roaming messages. Our platform also already supported foreign numbers. Our app that we publicize also works for other countries or roaming in customers. So we didn't need any changes on that side either. Another handy feature that our SMS platform has is that we have a sort of self-testing capability where you send a specific text string to our SMS machine. The test string is recognized, and then you get an auto response if it was correctly processed. So Orange used that test method when setting up their first pilot setup. Which is very handy because you don't need to disturb any emergency centers for first testing. So when we everything went okay, and we went for the first time to one of our 112 centers, it was an instant success. It worked. Basically, we spent more time drinking coffee than doing the actual test. And opening the screens, that was more so we just set the correct parameters, and the message came in. The message was parsed in the correct way, then the information was shown on the screen. The first test we did was with an Orange France SIM card using roaming on the Orange Belgium network, and it was okay. So we were very enthusiastic at that point. We were already enthusiastic when we first heard of the concept, but we used our usual contacts with the other two mobile networks, the real MNOs in Belgium, because they're of course hosting the roaming customers. And we convinced them to also implement this solution. Which they did. It took a little bit more of the time because of the Corona situation, where we weren't able to progress as fast as we would have liked to do it. After that, most of the tests that have been done, I just did that with my my own phone. I have a Dutch nationality, so I also have a Dutch SIM card in my phone next to my Belgium SIM card, which came in very, very handy in this case. So I just switch off my Belgium SIM card, make the emerging call via my Dutch SIM card, which is in roaming in mode, of course. First put it on the right network, depending on which network we're testing, and then we could do the testing. The other useful thing is that because it's my own SIM card, I can also see what is invoiced on my invoices for that SIM card, and I can assure that nothing was invoiced during none of the tests. So that was really good. I couldn't even find back traces of those messages being sent, so which is pretty excellent. The activation, when all three networks were ready and tested, the activation was requested to Google. For the moment, it only works on Android. I think probably the other main party is also working on it. The activation took around 2 weeks. It was predicted by Google. On the bottom of the screen, you can see the stats. We started on the 8th of May with the activation. And on the 8th of May, we just got a couple of messages, nothing much. And it really took off on the 20th of May. And then on the 21st, we basically had the nominal volume of calls. What you can also see from this graph is that compared to the normal AML messages, it's still limited, of course, but the emergency calls on roaming is always limited. But the borders were still closed at that point of time, so you only have a limited number of foreign SIM cards in Belgium. We do expect that it will increase during the summer holiday period when more people are visiting Belgium, of course. Google did see some failing messages, and we did say, well, what goes wrong? It took about half a day of research to find out what's happening. We did know that not all networks were accepting SIM-less or SIM-less SMS messages sent through that alias SMSC. And also national cannot use it, but that's not very relevant in this case. So what we noticed in one of the tests is that now AML apparently, or it's at least for roaming, it apparently uses the 2 SIM slots. When it sees that it is a dual SIM telephone, it sends 2 AML messages via both SIM slots. So apparently it also does that when the second SIM slot was disabled. So I disabled one of my Belgium card for doing the test, as I mentioned. And basically it still tried to send the message through that disabled SIM slot, but it uses it as a sort of SIM-less slot. So those messages were failing, probably also in cases where you just have a normal dual SIM phone and you don't have anything in the second SIM slot. So that explains the failing messages. Since we don't use SIM-less calls over here in Belgium, those failing messages are not relevant for the emergency services. So all good there. So the conclusion of the story is that the AML for roaming solution is a very elegant and simple setup. We only needed adaptations in the GSM networks, only in the MNOs, of course, because the MPNOs do not do roaming in. But it only consists of creating an alias on an existing SMSC. So indeed, as Eddy mentioned, no heavy investments are needed on the mobile network side either. We didn't do any adaptations on our PSAP side, no technical adaptations at least. We did, of course, inform the PSAPs that we can now also accept the roaming in AML messages. And the beauty of it is that it's completely free for the citizens, as of course emergency calls and related information should be. So that's really cool, and it has a real added value, of course, for the roaming in customers, that we can now better localize them. We also have had a suggestion of a possible other use case that was we've thought of that when we were investigating the failing messages actually. So when we were investigating, we saw that some of the SMSCs were also accepting the SIM-less messages. It's not all of them at the moment, but that probably can be adapted, just allowing for it. which also means that we have a potential solution for national roaming. So Belgium SIM card using another network for making the emerging call. In that case, apparently we first thought when we are in national roaming, you weren't able to make to send the SMS messages, but using this solution, you actually can. So so that means that when a national roaming calls comes in, we see the IMSI number as the CLI in the emergency center because it's no longer fully registered on the temporary network. There we do have to adapt some slight things on our systems where we can also store the AML information as a sort of alias on our side on the IMSI number. So the AML information is both known under the telephone number as under the IMSI number. So in that case, we can do matching. We just parse the AML message, fetch the IMSI part, and also store the information under the IMSI number instead of only under the telephone number. The only downside for the moment is I think Google started masking a part of the IMSI number last year. Of course, the matching will not work if the masking takes place for those roaming in or national roaming cases, because otherwise we will not get a match, of course. But that's just in the idea phase for the moment, but it can perhaps provide a solution in the future for having AML for basically all call types. National calls, that was already the case. Roaming in is now covered with this solution and already live. And perhaps we can also do the roaming in or the national roaming messages as well. So that was the last slide I had. I don't know if there are any questions.
Thank you very much, Jan. There are many questions.
Okay.
So yeah, so just so you know, for everybody, we are 115 people in this call. So you're all asking questions, which is really great, and I encourage you to do so. We'll try to respond to all of them. But yeah, I hope we will manage to do all of them. So just about your very presentation, there was just one precision that was asked by Yula Bara from the European Commission. So you were showing a graph during your presentation, Jan. So, and I will quote the question: the AML roaming messages graph represents the real roaming 112 calls.
Well, it's actually a graph of the AML for roaming AML messages that we received. It's a graph that was extracted from our SMS gateway. It would be a manual action to match those calls on actual 112 emergency calls. Mm-hmm. So that's a little bit time consuming and probably not a GDPR compliant action that I need to do. So we didn't do that. It's now we only use the anonymized data to just have an idea if the technical system is working.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Then we actually had so several questions have been asked a couple of times. One question that I saw was asked at least by Rodney Sell and Kieran was about convincing the MNOs. So Rodney, for instance, asked how difficult was it to convince MNOs to implement the solution? I think that's a question maybe to both of you, Jan and Eddy, knowing that Eddy, you work for an MNO actually.
Yeah, well, we do have regular contacts with all the MNOs for several reasons, for the emergency SMS messages, for our cell location systems and so on. So we do have good contacts with the network operators, and it was surprisingly easy. I used the presentation that Eddy sent me in the beginning of the project, how it should be implemented.
Mm-hmm.
And I just put some text around it and called the operators and say, well, this seems like it's not too complicated to implement. Can you investigate if it's possible, and in what time frame can you do it? And they were really positive and cooperative with us, and they were very willing to help us make this to make this work.
Yeah.
So didn't they take much effort in our case to convince them? It was rather obvious for them. Yeah, of course we should do that.
Yeah, which is great actually. And
Yeah.
actually, Eddy, you're also working actually within GSMA to get
Yes.
this solution promoted through GSMA. Maybe can you give us a bit more context about that?
Yeah, in fact, I am representative for Orange to the GSMA, to the network groups, and on a regular basis, I present some feedback on the trial that we perform in Belgium on the AML services for roamers, because we are dealing with all stuff related to roaming at the GSMA. I on a regular basis inform the participants to the meeting about it, and this solutions is also part of a new documents that will be available soon at the GSMA and related to the emergency service and the management of the emergency service for roamers. This document is dealing with the voice, the SMS, and a part of this document is also dedicated to the AML, and in this document all the requirement and the specification to put in place this solution is also available. We have regular discussions with operator very interested by this kind of solutions, and we will be free to and open to forward all needed informations to do of a success of the implementation of the roaming AML in the networks.
Thank you, Eddy, for that. Then a question that I saw coming at least 4 times. I noted from Dilpreet Singh, from Neil Stams, from Daniel Petrescu, and from Yannick Larsen, which is actually what about iOS? So do you know of any discussion with Apple? I know this is quite tricky actually.
I will just, Jan, let's go.
I've got the impression that they're also working on it, but I'm no official messages on that. It's probably going to pop up anytime soon. I just contacted Apple. They say if you're working on it and you would like to test, you're very welcome. Okay,
excellent. Keep you updated, maybe.
Yeah,
for people would like to know.
From my side, in fact, when we design the solutions, we contact Google and also Apple. We don't receive any answer from Apple. We have received a positive feedback from Google, and we have worked with Google to put in place the solutions with very good collaborations. But no feedback from iOS. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. So keep us updated, Jan, please.
Yeah, if I hear something, you'll first to know.
Thank you. Excellent. Then we had the question actually from Henning Schmidpot and Daniel Ratza that Jan, you addressed this issue in your presentation, but maybe Eddy would like to react on that. So could this be a solution for 112 calls in a limited service mode? For instance, if you're not connected to your home network, but to another network in your home country?
Yeah, that was basically what was on the last slide. I've got the impression that it might work because it was also working with a disabled SIM slot on some of the networks, not all of them. But if it's possible on some, I suppose it's just a question of setting the right user access rights.
Yeah.
It's a use case to check and to test, in fact.
Yeah, that still needs work.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Yeah, and then so I'm trying to get through the questions, but there are many, so not always easy. We had a question from Philip Schoening asking, is this solution also applicable if there are different AML endpoints / SMS gateway for different emergency calls? So for instance, if there's like a number for fire and a number for police, which actually is the case in Belgium.
Yeah, indeed, we do have 3 different emergency numbers. The good thing in our situation is that Astrid is providing the technical solution for all 3 type of emergency services. So we basically are the only endpoint for Belgium for all type of AML messages. So I'm not sure if you can make a split on network side based on the emergency number dialed, that it chooses another destination for the AML message. But I think it's not possible yet for normal AML messages either. But that's probably something Google and Apple need to rewrite the code to say, based on the emergency number, if it's this emergency number, you should use that endpoint, and if it's this your emergency number, so you should use another endpoint. But that's for the moment. In Belgium, we don't have the problem with although we have 3 emergency numbers, they're all handled by the Astrid technical infrastructure.
Yeah. And well, if Belgium does things on a centralized level, I think any country can do it.
We do have a centralized cluster set up for handling those messages on a national basis.
Yeah, excellent. Then we had a question from Dimitri Ershov, which is why aren't you using internet traffic to transmit location data? So I believe that means HTTPS as a transmission method.
Well, basically, the setup was already made for the emergency text messages. The main reason for that was that we use encrypted tunneling so it's internet, but it's fully encrypted. So we use just IPsec tunnels to the different GSM providers and to their respective SMSCs. We did have a look at using private MPLS type connections to the networks, but the problem is that the most SMS providers stated that we would have been the first provider and the only provider using SMS messages using a private connection, which means we would have our own router in their data center, a VPN or a firewall device, and so on. They say, well, the chances on an outage and not that our help desk doesn't know how to resolve the connection issues is bigger with a private connection than with an internet connection. So they say it's better to stick to the standard used for all customers, which is in the end more standard and will provide a better uptime in the end. So that's why we opted for a secured IPsec tunnel to all SMS providers. And another thing is, for some of the SMSCs aren't located in Belgium. So that also gets problems with international MPLS connections, which are complex, expensive, and so on.
Yeah, thank you for that answer. Then the next one is for Eddy. Question from Sven Brun. Is there a white paper describing the implementation that we can show to our MNOs in Norway?
Yes, no problem. I have a lot of documentations. Don't hesitate. I can provide to you all the informations.
Maybe what I can do is when we send the information about this this webinar with the presentations and the recording, maybe we can also send the documentation.
No problems. I will check with you, Benoit, if you have the last version, and
yes,
if not,
sure
I will provide it.
Excellent. Thank you, Eddy. Then we had a question from Yula Bara from the European Commission. Could you explain again what is the mechanism that ensures zero rating at retail level? So not only the wholesale level.
The retail level, yes. Correctly understand on the normal way to manage SMS in roaming. I come back on the initial call flows. The SMS is routed to the home networks. Then it means that for the retail level, when the customers is roaming abroad, in any case, the SMS is coming back to the home SMSC, and the home SMSC is responsible to bill the customers at the retail level. I speak, yes, at the retail level. Then we use the billing information from the home SMSC. With the solution that we propose, the SMS is fully managed by the visited networks, by the visited SMSC. Then the home SMSC is not aware about the SMS AML, then they don't have CDR, they don't have to bill the customers in the retail side. We have just on the wholesale level, as mentioned, the tab file with the information that a call has been placed. It's a regulatory obligation, but the rating for that is 0. At the wholesale level, 0. At the retail level, no CDR for the users, no billing for this SMS AML in roaming situations. It's very simple. The home SMSC don't see the SMS, then don't bill the customers.
Yeah, and it's also a free destination, of course, that we use for the AML messages. So that probably also triggers a zero-rated tariff, even if that would somehow come through.
But it's more at the wholesale level that we have this 0 for the retail. No CDR, no billing for the customers.
Yeah.
It's easy.
Yeah, I can also confirm that I didn't see an even as a zero rated on my invoice. It was quite simply not there.
No, not there. It will not be present on the retail level.
Yeah.
But for operators, we have the information in case of requisition of if we need to provide some information. We have the information, but no billing information for the customers.
Yeah, thank you. That's very clear. I see the time is running. It's now 2 to 12. Do you mind, Eddy and Jan, if we stay on the line maybe 10, 15 more minutes to be able to answer the questions?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
Okay, excellent. Because there's a lot of questions and it's good if we can answer them. So we had a question more about the tests part, and Francisco Lameira was asking for clarification whether you did all the tests with eSIMs in all the networks.
We didn't do any eSIM testing. We only used a classic, or at least I used, and also the test with Eddy was with a normal foreign SIM card, a nano SIM card. And we used the ELS manager tool that Google provided for doing our testing. So you can do sort of pre-production testing.
Okay.
But normally, even if you use an eSIM, it shouldn't make a difference, I suppose.
Yeah. Then we had a question from Rodney Snell that was during your presentation, Eddy, so some time ago. I'm sorry that it took long to get it responded. So Rodney just asked some clarification. So is it possible to have two different AML configs in one country? So one for the home people, the residents, and another one for the roamers,
Yes,
which has the new SMSC address specified.
Yes,
yeah, that's actually the case over here in Belgium. So if you use the ELS manager and you have a look at the profiles that are available for the real config, you see two configs actually. You see the AML and the I switch off my phone so I cannot see it. But actually you see a second profile for roaming.
Yeah. Okay.
And the two can coexist, and by the end you can decide to use only the configuration for roamers. It's also applicable to home users. It's a choice, but it's working. Both are working at the same time.
Yeah, well, actually, it does work on the Orange network, but it doesn't work, for example, on the Proximus network. If you try to use the alias SMSC for national Proximus cards, then it refuses them to parse the message. So you really have to use, at least on the Proximus network, roaming users use the alias +32112 SMSC, and the national users use the regular SMSC of the provider.
Yeah. It's probably linked to the capacity of the alias SMSC, which is limited.
Yeah, probably something to do with that. But currently, not on all networks, but on at least at one end, it's blocked for national use.
Yeah. But both can work together at the same time. It's a key point.
Exactly.
Thank you. Then we had a question that is not directly linked actually to AML roaming. So maybe you'd be able to address it, maybe not really. Let's try. So it was a question asked from Victor Salgado, who was saying that yesterday his uncle, who was in Extremadura, so next to the Portuguese border in Spain, called the firefighters. And so his call arrived at the Portuguese firefighters. So he says, luckily he could interact with the PSAP, but it seems problematic at frontiers between countries. How could we fix these automatic roaming changes? I'm not sure you can answer this question, but.
Yeah, I have trouble understanding the question, but yeah.
So he's asking for how we fix the situations of when you're next to a border, your call goes to the other side of the border, basically.
Yeah, that's always the tricky part. That you're still on the old network, which is not doesn't correspond to the country where you're in.
Yeah. To answer this, in many regions, we can see some, let's say, trans-border agreements between the PSAP, and they're able to forward back the call. Also, you can use the database that is maintained by the CEPT, and that provides you access to PSAPs in other countries.
Yeah.
We had a question from Thomas Neuwirth, which is how do you ensure that the country code of the SMSC is correctly configured in each country? Is that something hard-coded in the Android firmware?
I'm not sure how Google does that exactly, but apparently they somehow push or update the configuration of the Google Play services depending on also for the activation, for example, of the AML for roaming in Belgium. So apparently they're able to push or updates of that information.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's updated every once in a while when there's sort of a global list in the Google Play services each time they do an update, but I'm not really sure how that mechanism works.
Yeah, I think it's more a question for Google actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, then we had the question from Holger de Belt. What is the impact for the MVNOs in the visited countries? Is there some coordination needed?
No. The MVNOs are not hosting roaming in customers, so they're not concerned in this typical case.
Okay, that is clear. Yeah, and I'm trying to go through the questions because we have now answered most of them. Yeah, this has been answered. These two. Yeah, you addressed the issue of dual SIM phones. So Daniel, maybe that was answered already actually. Daniel Rata asked if you did the test using dual SIM phones with one SIM roaming and the other one on the local MNO, well, home MNO.
Yeah, that's exactly how I tested.
Yeah. So yeah, that was answered. These two. Yeah, then there was a question from Andrei Vladoiu. Do you have any perspective on a similar solution for HTTPS AML message? But this, if I'm not mistaken, there's no such issue with HTTPS actually.
No, HTTP always worked. The main issue with HTTP, as I understood it, was still to obtain the telephone number of the phone by the AML service in the phone, because it's not always known.
Yeah.
But indeed, HTTP is internet, so it's by default always capable for roaming. But the main issue is the telephone number.
Yeah. Then there was a question from Yula Bara. What is the issue with the PSAP response in case of implementing this solution for the mainstream SMS to 112 communication? I'm not sure I fully understand the question actually.
Yeah, well, the problem is, as Eddy mentioned, for if you do you could use the alias SMSC for emergency text messages going from the person in need roaming in to the PSAP. That isn't the problem. The problem usually with SMS is it's not just one SMS going in, but it's also an interaction between the person in need and the PSAP. So the PSAP needs to send a message back to the roaming in person, and there the trouble starts, because we cannot use the national SMSCs for sending international messages. Yeah. Or not always, or it will not guarantee to work, and so on. So that is it might work, but it's at least not tested.
Mm-hmm.
And we are pretty sure that in some case it will not work, because we try to send an SMS to our roamers. We will use to identify the PSAP in the majority of case short numbers. It's mandatory to know that some operators, in case of SMS to customers of the network, they apply what we call home routing mechanism. Then they oblige the SMS to coming back to the operators managing the users. Then in this case, if the SMS is sent using a short number, it will be blocked, because short number are identified for application to person and restricted only to the home networks. Then it's very complex. It's really not easy, and it's an important work that we have started to try to solve this issue. But it's it seems simple, but it is not. It's really complex. There exist a lot of mechanisms related to the SMS, to the control of the SMS, making the both-way communication via SMS in case of emergency SMS very complex to put in place.
Yeah, thank you. In the meanwhile, I saw a comment from Neil Stamp, who actually gave some more information about how the configuration is done in the hardware. So the configuration is managed and is pushed out when the handsets check in with Play services overnight. So that was a complement to a response to a former question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, then there was a question from Dilpreet Singh. Can you explain how SMSs from a seamless device were enabled? Which I'm not sure that was the case actually.
We did some testing on that, but apparently, yeah, you can do that. At least with the simulator, I was able to do that. Not on all networks, but on some of them. But that it also uses the guest SMSC and it just sent the message through that guest SMSC. But that is still work in progress.
Yeah. Yeah, it's quite a tricky one actually. This so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then there was one question, and that might be the last question actually, from Daniel Petrescu, which is actually not a lot about the solution. So maybe you can explain more, but maybe you can't. So can you please clarify the point of Google Android hiding a part of the IMSI in case of some scenarios where MSI SDN may be missing? If also IMSI is altered, then it will be very difficult to associate this to an emergency call. This is under discussion basically, and Apple already does hide some part of the IMSI. So we're trying to look at ways to make it possible to match the SMS and HTTPS otherwise. Yeah.
Well, exactly. We have no problems with masking a part of the EMI number, which we don't use. Perhaps for seamless calls, you should use the EMI number, but it's totally blocked over here in Belgium. Mm-hmm. But indeed, for the partially registered cards where there is an IMSI available, well, we need to have the full IMSI, of course. And I think they did it for some privacy reasons, but yeah, I don't really get it why you do this for the IMSI number, because if you have the telephone number, you can always trace back the IMSI number. You cannot trace back the EMI number, but you can trace back the IMSI number. Yeah. Yeah, thanks for that. And I have actually missed one question that was asked much earlier during this call, actually, from Thomas Mortensen. I'm not sure the question is very clear though, but let's see. So out of interest, what about the application for SMS to 112 as a one-way communication? I'm not sure I fully understand this question. Yeah, no, I think he's referring to the problems with the return messages. Yeah, of course, you could send as a roaming in using the same method as AML, but the problem you will have, at least on the device side, is that the AML code knows that it should change the SMSC from your regular SMSC to the alias guest SMSC. But your normal SMS application does not know that, of course. So it will still use your home SMSC. If you try to send a message to the 8112 destination, the home SMSC will block that message. So that will be an issue. Not that it's not possible to resolve that issue, but you need to start adapting the SMS client that you're using for sending those messages.
Yeah, I hope that that helps to the one who asked this question. I think we're good for now. I don't see any other question. Anyway, in case you have any other doubt, just feel free to send it by email. It can be to me, and then I can bridge with Jan and Eddy if needed. So thanks a lot to Eddy and Jan. For your great intervention today. I think looking at the number of participants, we're still 92 here. That was very helpful for people in different countries. So thanks a lot for making some time.
Okay, thank you very much.
And thanks to the participants. So the recording and the presentation will, sorry. No, so
sorry.
It's okay. The recording and presentations will be sent to you afterwards. and together with some documents that Eddy will kindly share with me. And yeah, just feel free to email us in case you have any other issue. And so thank you very much to everybody, and have a great day.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you.